everything is running well right now, but we'll see how it goes. It just froze for a second, and I had to redo everything. But seems like everything is going so far. Other than that, we're back onto the Naughty Dog story trend. It looks like I'm really frozen. So, I wonder where should I just put myself? Probably here. Let's probably mix it up. Maybe metal here. Nah. Alrighty. I do wonder, what would the chat feel where I would put it? Over here, over here. I think if I put it over here, you can't see it. Over here, you can't see the emojis. So, I could either put it here, but text over here, well, it's going to cover some of it. I just put it here as always. But, I'm just going to minimize it. I don't want it to. Other than that, let's continue on with the story. Went through that, read through this magazine, and yeah, I read through here. Cruising. No, I didn't hit that. So, I figured I'd just start through here. I just amazed with the freaking pinball. I do wonder if I should just... Oh, shoot. Pressed the wrong. Should I put... Nah. Over here is good. I should just move the picture here. Yeah, this probably should be the thumbnail. Whatever, but... Other than that, let's go on. Gavin and Ruben. Ruben manipulated his program to make an art for his earlier games, courtesy Wikipedia. Ruben's art in their earlier projects required an incredible amount of patience to create. Using barely functioning tablet technology, he had to try to steadily the 3 pixel jitter of pinball construction sets. Pixel editor, yield, hit it, miss, undo, hit it, miss, undo, each pixel to get the line. I was an absolute nightmare, Ruben admitted. But there was more. To get the art from pinball construction set to their games, they had to trick their Apple IIs to give them to the created images. You couldn't save, so the only way to get the image out was to do a reset on the hardware, on the Apple hardware, and then you could catch the cache of graphics when it was in the frame buffer, Ruben said. In other words, they had to constantly hard reset their machines over and over again, split what they needed from all the data being dumped, and repeat the process. You couldn't save, so the only way to get the image out was to do a reset on the Apple hardware. And quote, Gavin and Ruben conquered problems like this regularly, and both men feel that it was these trials and tribulations that not only made them into the successful game creators they would later become, but that their experience is a common theme among the first generation of game programmers, designers, and artists. Ruben recounted an experience 2 decades later after he and Gavin sold Naughty Dog to Sony and left the company. They found a separate company called Flector, and Ruben had to get into the weeds to show his younger artists that difficult tasks aren't necessarily insurmountable. Okay. Something up at my end, and it's been a while. Might as well work on what can be the camera issue. Try to deactivate it, then activate again, and see if it works. Process. Oh, shoot, it does. So I am confident that I can fiddle with the devices, microphone, webcam, anything other while doing the stream, and there wouldn't be any backdrop issues from my end. So, oh yeah, besides this, but just because there's a item, regardless of what item it is, my friend. Besides that, let me activate this again. Alright. Let's see if I'm not gonna drink anything. I'm gonna see if this still works. Anywho, we had 5 artists at Flector. I said to the artist, I need a 3x3 front for the copyright notice we had to put on our video editing tool because there's no way we're going to spend 10 pixels of screen real estate doing some sort of font. Give me a 3x3 font instead of font. A couple hours later, they came back and said a 3x3 font is impossible. How do you do an S? I said, you do it. When we type it, Photoshop wouldn't give us a font that's less than 6. 6 is the minimum. Draw it by hand. We can't. The tablet, the brush, just do it pixel by pixel with the mouse. We can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah, right. 15 minutes later, I had written out a copyright notice in 3x3 font, and it was legible. They had no idea it could be done. Man, that was a challenge. I think that's lost on a lot of the newer generation, who simply expect to be given tools and to work with those tools. I think there's a reason why a lot of the cutting edge stuff is still being done by people that started 20 or 30 years ago. He continued, that is, you don't expect it to be handed to you. You have to figure it out. Let me actually do a trick. You're given a piece of hardware or a piece of code or a tool set, and you push the limits of it and figure out what it can do by experimentation rather than manuals or something else. I think that's lost on a lot of the newer generation, who simply expect to be given tools and do work with those tools. A perfect example of that is Photoshop, which is so easy to use now with brushes and tablets, and nobody thinks about pixel editing with a mouse and a giant font. My bad. There are so many font tools who would ever draw one by hand. Yeah, looks like it actually worked. And to control my breathing and, be a bit reserved with control my speech than what I am right now. So, one of the tricks actually wrote. Or, would have been easier if I was taught that, but reading everything, I have to try to figure out how to do my voice and stuff just by reading and understanding it. Takes some time, but at least I'm getting the voices handy. This mentally allowed them to persevere in a market that was finally starting to recover from the infamous video game crash. They pitched Skid Stud to a small Michigan-based publisher called Boudoir V and Boudoir V Bit. It was at the time that the name changed to Ski Craze at the publisher's request. they were a fairly small time. They might have had 30 to 40 employees, Gavin recounted. Ooh, Skid Kid, this is really, really old. Jesus Christ, for the Apple. Well, I'm talking about 80s. Pretty much have all the winter gear that's all like fluorescent neon color. Ugh. Six Crazed was Jan's first proper game. The boys were 16 years old, courtesy Ally Software Encyclopedia. Ski Craze sold about 1,500 units, netting them around $2 per copy. During the development of the game, the pair began moving away from the crude tools like pinball construction set, moving on to a program known as Take One. Take One. Since their computers were purchased by their parents, there was nothing to pay off or acquire. The money they earned could go into the next game, but there was one item in particular that they converted but couldn't afford: a hard drive. Alrighty. When talking about the games they lost due to backup errors, Gavin and Ruben recalled a guy down to a street from them who had, in 1984, a thin, unheard of 5 megabyte hard drive. It cost $24,000. Jeez. I remember seeing the first 5 megabyte hard drive and thinking, this guy must be loaded, Gavin said. Ski Craze sold about 1,500 units, netting them around $2 per copy. But damn. Also, Gavin and Ruben recalled a guy. That's from the article's end, not mine. But that guy wasn't loaded. He was a thief. Oh no, hold up. This is an excuse I could use my voice. But that guy wasn't loaded. He was a thief. He had actually stolen it, Gavin continued. Which we wouldn't know about the time. He was like 14 too. He had done over $100,000 worth of credit card fraud. The FBI arrested him. Actually, he didn't go to jail. But he got in deep trouble. End quote. Instead of following a similar course, Gavin and Ruben utilized the tools at their disposal, and the money earned from vaudeville. The money earned from vaudeville, which allowed them to purchase a previous second disc drive and took the next step toward in their careers, crafting a trio of games quite unlike Math Jam, Ski Craze, or anything they created before. Gavin and Ruben, people who did those games, Math Jam, Ski Craze, and anything else they had created under the Apple II. It showcases how old the people and staff of Naughty Dog are, and what they leave behind. Part 3. Electronic artists. Gavin and Ruben didn't make an incredible amount of money from their deal with Bald V, but at 16 years old they were pretty content. Enough so that for their next game, they will continue the partnership with a fledgling publisher on a game called Dream Zone. It will launch in 1987. Dream Zone was an adventure game combining the genre's text-heavy slant with graphics that were quite advanced for their time. And it was the first game the guys created that didn't only run on Apple II. It also came to Commodore's Amiga platform. It's most akin, perhaps, to Myst. Ooh. Though it preempted that game by over 7 years ago. It was like Myst with bad graphics, Ruben said, jokingly. Dream Zone. Whoa. Amiga includes two 800K discs, but all vaudeville high performance software. Vaudeville. I keep on saying vaudeville. Dream Zone was Jan's second game for vaudeville. courtesy Wikipedia. As its title suggests, Dream Zone was about, well, a dream. In particular, a kid who fell into a weird dream. You were trapped in a dream, Gavin explained. You went into dreamland through the toilet. Dreamland through the toilet. It actually featured digitalized graphics at the beginning. We did a weird Wizard of Oz thing where it was black and white digitalized graphics when you were in your real life, and then it went into color, Jason drawn graphics. Somehow my voice actually kicked. Ooh, well. Dream Zone was a modest hit for Jam and Vaudeville alike. The game sold upwards of 10,000 copies, earning the guys about 15,000 for their hard work. At 17 years old, their success was exemplary. I'm gonna get a drink of water, but let's see if the camera defaults. It's gonna flicker. Hey, let's see what goes on. Interesting. I think I have an idea what it could be. It could not be this shaking, but it could be, yes, whatever I put on the desk reacts to it. So this is a physical issue, not a digital from my end. But I have to tackle with it once I'm done with the stream, so deal with it. Okay, jockeys. But they wanted more for themselves and their games, and part of that, during their last year of high school, was to end the relationship with Vaudeville. Vaudeville wasn't much of a marketer, and they didn't have very good distribution, Gavin explained. Dream Zone wouldn't be in every store, so Jason and I were like, they're too small. We went up to Michigan, and they were kinda stoners. Definitely one of the two partners was a serious stoner. Not that we saw it, but he was just, dude, mellow out. Dude, mellow out. Dream Zone sold upwards of 10,000 copies, earning the guys about 15,000 for their hard work. $15,000. $15,000. That was going to be a recurrent theme with Naughty Dog, which I still think pervades the building Naughty Dog works in. Ruben interjected. We felt it was our destiny to be the biggest and the best. Therefore, anytime we felt that there was something standing in our way, such as our publisher wasn't good enough, we simply called the publisher, drew their front line, and said, "We're Naughty Dog. We should be working for you." Although technically at that time, we weren't called Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog. We weren't called Naughty Dog. As such, their next step was the boldest move they made up to that point. At 17 years old, with 3 games under their belt, they cold called EA, Electronic Arts and asked them for a deal. Shockingly, when they called, they were put right through the company's decision makers. Upon request, Gavin and Rubin shipped a EA copy of Dream Zone, which impressed the company. Stuff looks good, Gavin recalled the EA representative telling them. We'll send a contract. They asked EA for $15,000 to make their next game. A paltry sum of money. On top of that, EA gave them 10% of each copy of their new game sold. This was at a time when EA, stressing the electronics artists, moniker, were all about trying to treat the people who made the games like stars. Like stars, it was directed by EA's legendary founder, Trip Hopkins. Ooh. Unfortunately for EA, $15,000 wasn't enough money for Rubin and Gavin to make their next game, which ended up being an RPG called Keith the Thief. 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 It cost more like $48,000 in the end. Still a low sum of money in the industry that mostly had its costs in control and could still make a profit even on games that didn't sell gangbusters. I like that word. Gavin explained more about EA's situation at the time. Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts with the O referring to something very similar to the Sierra company logo back in the 90s. But, that's supposed to image the digital end of video games. At 17, Gavin and Rubin called EA asking for a deal and got one. Occasionally, EA had games they got cancelled or failed or whatever, but the thing is, you didn't have to sell very much to make money. They made a lot of money in those days. I mean, they still do today, presumably, but it's harder. Those days, they spent $50 grand on this game, and they sold it for $40 to $50. Maybe their wholesale was $20 or so. So they only had to sell a couple of thousand copies, especially if it came out broken even or make money. I can't do that out loud, so I think I just have to do this. The zappy, trying to retain a raspy tone, but I'm starting to understand a form of cadence. So that's interesting, especially with me feeling it. Keith the Thief launched in 1989 and eventually came to Apple II, Amiga, and MS-DOS. It was the first game sold under the Naughty Dog moniker, a name the pair settled on during Keith's development, and it sold a staggering 50,000 copies, making Gavin and Rubin a healthy sum of money, but it also gave them their first unsavory taste of the loss of absolute creative control, and it ultimately affected their vision for the game. Keith the Thief sold a staggering 50,000 copies. ... End quote. It started out as a serious RPG, but EA insisted on making it funnier. Even giving the guys a comedy writer. The comedy slant was compounded with cartoonish box art that didn't quite do the game justice. This problem was the marketplace wasn't fully prepared for a comedy RPG at the time, Rubin said. It was funny, but it was an odd kind of funny. A video game writer writing comedy very early in the games of video games. In the days of video games had comedy. Having comedy. It was sort of in the Gru the Wanderer, Sergio Aragonese school, Gavin included. Yeah, I just don't know how to pronounce it. It was a good game, Ruben insisted, but it kinda capped out at a certain amount of sales. I remember EA saying to us that we probably shouldn't have gone with comedy. After the fact, that kind of stung me because it was one of those things that we didn't have an opportunity to decide what was going on. We already signed up, and they had the right to do this. Quote. But even with those complaints, and even with a loss of creative control, Ruben and Gavin stayed with EA and pitched them another RPG. One much more ambitious and more costly than Keith the Thief, according to Ruben. The code name was Buccaneer. And they asked for $90,000 to make it. EA agreed, though it cost a balloon to $1,500,000 when all was said and done. Oh yeah. With Keith the Thief, Jam Software became Naughty Dog. And you could see Anthem for oh my god, that the accent is now affecting my regular speech. Animal performed kick. Let's just get a drink of water. So I'm going to gently slide it instead of hit it. And is it all good? Right. Now, I might as well figure out how badly the extended cables is by moving the lights and see if it works. Oh, everything's good. Yeah. Alrighty. But yeah, having an Animal Before They Kick character for Naughty Dog shows the seeds of some of their legacies early on, so it became a full-on tree as it is today. Naughty Dog leaving a legacy. Seeing some of the seeds when they was starting out. Buccaneer, which would eventually be known as Rings of Power, began development in earnest upon Keith the Thief's completion in 1989, but the game's creation was stymied by a very practical problem. Ruben and Gavin were now in college, and they lived in different states. Their solution was to work all year long with the tools at their disposal. We were one of the first telecommunicators on the planet, Ruben recounted. We were using first 300, then 1,200, then 2,400 bond modems to telecommunicate. He was attending the University of Michigan, and Gavin was in the school in Pennsylvania, so there was no other options than to use the incredible slow, yet at the time incredible technology advanced modems to send information and data back and forth. Talk about remote learning. Oh man, at least it's way easier nowadays. Keith the Thief, a boy and his lockpick. Such a comedy RPG. Keith the Thief was the Naughty Dog's last PC game, courtesy Wikipedia. Around the late 80s, working for Electronic Arts, and later for other systems under the PC, and some old consoles like the Amiga. It shows their old history. I actually want to see more about this. This is a pretty low image here, but looking at when this was made, yeah, well, it does showcase that. And over here, you can sort of see it a bit lower res compared to other articles I read, like the Six Nights Fallujah and articles from IGN and you can see Kotaku, but this just goes to show how image quality can be a thing. Or the case could be because I zoomed in everything to 160, so in your end, you're able to see it. So I'll do this. Yeah, this is a good image, but this one isn't. Let me zoom out to normal and see how it is. Yeah, it's still a pretty low image, but it is way perfect than it was when it zoomed in. Besides that, I am done. I did not say aloha because of camera issues, so darn me. I'll take a hint of that. But other than that, aloha.